So our speaker tonight on our EPAC call is Senior Vice President of Global Operations, Mr. Peter Grison. Peter has over 15 years of experience in healthcare, manufacturing and consumer goods. He has formulated and launched more than 3,000 unique products worldwide. Over the years, he has won numerous awards for innovation and product development and has won product development, including multiple Product of the Year awards. Now, I know he has a huge passion for our glycan technologies and a firm commitment to innovation and staying on the leading edge of nutritional science. We're very, very privileged to have him here this evening and excited to know that he works alongside Dr. Nugent in new product development and product upgrades. In fact, formulation is his passion. We were just having a great chat before. Now, in this last few days, he's flown via Dallas, via Amsterdam, via Miami. He's currently at the airport in Aruba, but we are delighted to have him join us on a call tonight to share all things GRT, glycan replacement therapy. Please, please, please give a warm European welcome to Mr. Peter Grison. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for that very, very kind introduction. And I am so excited to be here on this call with all of you this afternoon, evening for you all, to talk a little bit about a new way of sharing the products, a new way of talking about what we do at Manatech, and that is glycan replenishment therapy. Now, when you thought about our products historically, and I'm going to share my presentation here, when you've thought about our products historically, a lot of times the way that they've been discussed is in this element of glycans. But in order for us to really dive into that, we have to talk about what are glycans, why do they matter, and why should the modern consumer care about glycans in today's environment. So when we first got started 30 years ago as a business, the science of glycans was just emerging, right? We knew that they existed. We knew they were critical to life. They're one of those macromolecules of life alongside of DNA and proteins. But we didn't exactly know just how critical they were until the last 10, 15 years as the science has continued to evolve. So first and foremost, when we think about glycans, they are ubiquitous with life. They are everywhere throughout the environment. On every single living cell, they're coated with glycans. And those unique glycan structures influence everything that that cell is able to do. And not only on every single cell, they're also coating the majority and transforming the majority of proteins through that glycosylation, right? 70% of all proteins are glycosylated. So we know they're important, but for a very long time, scientists had a hard time studying them. Now, there's a number of reasons for that. One of the most important of which is they're complicated. There's thousands upon thousands of possible branching chains, and they create these very unique, very complex structures. And all of that means that glycans were often overlooked in favor of DNA or studying proteins where they're more simplistic structures. But over the last, as I mentioned, 10 to 15 years, and even more so in the last 5 years, as imaging and technology has improved, just how important glycans are and just how fundamental they are to health has become more and more clear. And we've hit this tipping point today where we've come to realize that when it comes to healthy aging, when it comes to maintaining your body's function, there's not anything out there more important than consuming and maintaining glycan health, right? Adequate glycans allowing your body to properly glycosylate is how you maintain glycan health. So let's jump in and let's talk through a few key areas of glycan health. So first and foremost, what are glycans? Now, you've heard me say, hey, they're these complex structures, and at their base, they're actually pretty simple, but they build these wonderful structures. They're sugar chains, right? These polysaccharides that coat, as I mentioned, every single cell lining throughout nature. And they start off in small sequences, right? We have these, we call them the 8 essential sugars that you find in ambrotose, for example. And those are the building blocks, the bricks that your body needs to create these unique branching structures. And over time, as our diets have evolved, as our lifestyles have changed, those are less and less common in our day-to-day life. We don't consume as many dietary glycans, and we don't consume nearly enough a variety of glycans as we previously did. And a perfect way to think about this is just simply think about something that's a common source of dietary glycans, which is fiber. If you looked at the average fiber consumption over the last 50 to 100 years, it's tailed off and declined pretty dramatically. And when you think about what that means, not only does that mean people are getting less dietary fiber, which is critical for so many functions, it is the food for your gut. But again, a common component of those dietary fiber sources are those polysaccharide chains, those glycans that you need to glycosylate, that critical process to allow your body to build these incredible blueprints that tell everything throughout your body what to do, where to go, and how to function, and allow them to attach to the right place, right? Again, these are the building blocks, and they are everywhere and they are essential. And one of the most common ones that just quickly points out how essential they are is your blood types, right? Your blood type is determined by those glycan structures, whether it's A, B, or O, or whatever it may be, is determined by those glycan structures. And something as simple as getting the wrong blood type, your body rejects that because it's the identity of who you are. The glycan structure is what allows your body to identify self, right, you, from what's not you. And so when you think about what that means for immune function, for overall cognitive health, for everything throughout your body, it becomes very, very clear how important these are. And these building blocks, again, that we're now deficient in many of them, um, it's hard for your body to synthesize. Now, they can synthesize some of them, but at great metabolic toll. And if you're not consuming adequate glycans, it's really simple. You're driving around or you're running around with limited fuel, right? I almost liken it to rolling blackouts. You're going to prioritize the areas that are most important. So if you want to look and feel your best, you want to make sure that you have full power at all times, which means giving your body those building blocks. Now, from there, when you think about, again, why this has been overlooked, we talked a little bit about how they're complex and challenging to study. We talked a little bit about there's a scientific bias, right? Because of the incredible nature of what we were doing with the genome project and uncovering DNA and all these different things, and then onto proteins and peptides. Oftentimes, glycans got left in the dust. But in fact, now if you look at biotech spending and in drug development and other areas, glycan science is one of the most well-funded areas of research because we realize the potential. And again, it's catching up quickly with the Nobel Prize being awarded in the last few years. So most doctors, because this is cutting edge, have never been trained more than a passing lecture about glycans. And most lay people, as a result, don't know anything about glycans or where to get them. So there's this fundamental macromolecule of life that you have to have. Your body has to have glycans, and diseases that impact glycosylation are oftentimes fatal. So it's critical, right? It's critical that you have these. And then you got something that's also at the same time being overlooked in a lot of cases by modern medicine and by science. And you also have something on the other end that is possible to consume naturally through your diet as well as through proper supplementation. So that makes this an incredibly unique opportunity when it comes to healthy aging. Because if we take a step back and we say, how do glycans impact aging? Well, we talked a little bit about the impact on your immune system, right? They're critical for your immune function. They're critical for a healthy gut. They're critical for a healthy brain, right? They're critical for skin and joint health, right? The joints that you have, the scaffolding around your joints is composed of what are called glycosaminoglycans, right? That is the spongy tissue there that gives you the cushion. So as you age, the glycosaminoglycan content in your joints starts to decline. But interestingly enough, that is something that you can replenish naturally. So this again comes back to why this is so important. It's a fundamental macromolecule of life that's been often overlooked that does in fact create a lasting and very short-term change in the span of things compared to some of these other things that people are trying when it comes to healthy aging. And again, this is where the idea of glycan replenishment therapy comes in. So glycan replenishment therapy simply means that we are giving our body, we're providing our body those critical glycans that we need to support glycosylation, right? For cellular communication, for cellular function. And again, the simplest way I can think about it is if you're trying to spell health and you're missing 2 or 3 of those letters, you can't spell it. But again, we're adding those letters back. That is what glycan replenishment therapy is. And again, as we mentioned, modern diets, lifestyles, all of these things, we're consuming less dietary fiber, which is the most common source of dietary glycans than ever before. We don't consume a lot of shellfish and these other things that may be a source of certain glycans. And so we're missing these things on a day-to-day basis. And the impact is so severe that you have in the US, the American Heart Association and others saying, hey, we have a lack of fiber, an epidemic where people are not consuming enough dietary fiber. If you look at developing nations and developed nations like China, they have the lowest dietary fiber consumption anywhere in the globe, 17 grams a day, which is not nearly enough. On the inverse side of that, if you looked at all of these blue zones globally, the places where people live the longest, there's one uniting factor, and that in all of those places, they're consuming close to around 50 grams of dietary fiber a day, right? And that's, again, a rich source of glycans. So these are critical in your overall health as you age, and they are a key indicator when it comes to your ability to maintain a healthy biological age as compared to your chronological age, which is how old you are by date. Your biological age is how old your body actually is. So again, these glycans are the critical piece, the missing piece. And you hear a lot about other products that are interesting and other ingredients that are interesting for healthy aging, but they're 1%, maybe 2% improvement. This is the fundamental underlying missing link when it comes to healthy aging. And again, we talk about these benefits. The most simple one to understand is cell-to-cell communications, right? If you are missing glycans and those cells can't properly communicate, can't properly recognize each other, your immune system is compromised. Everything in your body, from hormones, et cetera, can be compromised, right? You're running around without service, so to speak, right? You can't talk to anybody, they can't talk to you. And again, from an immune support perspective as well, you think about these things in specific glycans can have different benefits. We know about beta glucans, for example, which are an example of a glycan, which may help with your innate immunity and trained immunity. So another great benefit. You talk about ace-mannan, for example, which activates your macrophages, right? Those immune sentinels to help enhance your body's defense systems. All of these things come together to boost your overall immune system. And then you talk about, again, gut health, these glycans acting as prebiotics, helping to support overall gut health. And one of the most common misconceptions is that people should consume more probiotics when they're having gut health challenges. But in reality, if you just consume probiotics in the absence of prebiotics, then you're giving yourself the bacteria without the food that the bacteria needs, right? And glycans oftentimes act as that food. So when you think about something like the GI Pro system or something like that, where you're getting some prebiotics and probiotics, it's critical because you're getting the food and the actual bacteria itself. And similarly, when you're replenishing glycans, similar to those found in, mother's milk or something like that, you're also nourishing your microbiome. And from the minute you are born, these are critical to the moment you die. And I've said this before, the very first thing that a brand new baby gets from their mother passed through breast milk are glycans, human milk oligosaccharides, which are critical because those help to actually map that brand new baby's immune system. And they're so important, in fact, that you have companies like Abbott Labs and others who are investing, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to develop synthetic versions of these to put into baby formula to aid in the immune systems of babies that have to be formula fed. So it's incredibly important and incredibly critical for your gut, for your immune, all the way across. And then one of the newer areas of research is, again, the glycans impact on tissue regeneration, on your joints, on your skin. We talk about things that everybody knows, hyaluronic acid, for example, a glycan that helps with skin moisture, but also when consumed helps with joint moisture, helping to maintain that fluid in the joints so you get that natural movement. Similarly, you have other things that you're familiar with that are glycans, glucosamine, chondroitin sulfate, those are all glycans, right? So again, when you think about tissue regeneration, most of the supplements that that actually do produce an impact for your joints are glycans. So they're critical when it comes to tissue repair and aging. And as I mentioned, one of the more interesting things is that you have this concentration, high concentration, almost 50% of your joint tissue is glycosaminoglycans when you're younger, and as you age, that drops off dramatically. But you can, in fact, supplement and improve the overall health of those joints. So that makes it completely unique. And this is something that's not new to Manatech, right? Manatech has been doing this for 30 years, right? Before I mentioned that you could even really study the structures, we knew that there was this important area of research and natural products that was often overlooked. While we initially focused in on ace-mannan, it has spread from there and the products have evolved from there. And it's always been a science-backed approach. One of the most interesting things, the most attractive things to me personally about Manatech is that when I got involved, it's so rare that you see any supplement company that is actually doing a clinical trial on their finished product. Oftentimes, most of the companies you see, or anybody would see, they've done it on an ingredient. So the ingredient supplier will do a clinical trial on that ingredient by itself, right? And that's it. And so then when they put it in a product, you say, oh, well, it's clinically proven to do this. Well, that ingredient is not the whole product. And given how complex botanicals are and how complex natural products can be, you want to make sure that that interaction is actually producing that result, not just in vitro, right, in a test tube, but in vivo in a human body. And that's one of the things that we've done on ambertose and a number of other products to show that in a human, there's an actual noticeable benefit. And you can, in fact, improve those serum glycan profiles. That makes this incredible because we know, again, going all the way back to the beginning, glycans are critical for life. They are a critical piece. They also know that they decline in many areas and they change in many areas as you age. They can go from a, I would say, almost anti-inflammatory state to a more pro-inflammation state as you age, right? That's something that can happen in your glycan profile. That's what's measured by IgG. And we also know that, again, as you age, other areas like your joints, they decline. So if you're able to measurably impact your serum glycan profile, so measurably impact the amount of these glycans that you have for your body to utilize in that glycosylation process, that is going to be potent and incredibly beneficial. And again, we've been leading the way on this for 30 years, and now we're continuing to evolve our science and pushing it to the next level with new innovations like our self nano-emulsifying delivery systems and new glycans, right? Discovering proteoglycans and the first glycans to have a 4-day joint health benefit. All of these things are part of Manatech's future and now. So it's the moment in time that's so critical because we're getting into this wave of glycan science, this revolution of glycan science. And just like the Human Genome Project revolutionized the way we thought about DNA and genetics, that Human Glycome Atlas is going to revolutionize the way we think about glycans and our overall glycome, right? That the whole body of glycans in your body. And then again, we also now have new technologies that are leading the way on how we analyze and develop cutting edge therapies targeted at specific glycans for different opportunities throughout the body. And you see this in the biotech space, but you also see this in the natural product space. And then even on the therapeutic side, glycan age, for example, measures IgE and gives you an indication of your biological age that's more accurate than anything else out there. And that's looking at a specific glycan to say, you know, what is your biological age? Not what's your chronological age, but how are you actually aging? So glycans are really leading the way, and there's becoming this understanding of what was once referred to as the dark matter of biology, right? It's this complex thing that's hard to understand. And now we're starting to get to this point where glycans are moving from the background to the foreground of science. And that's an incredible moment, right? This is an incredible opportunity. And I believe right now is the tipping point for glycans and glycan replenishment therapy because of the scientific breakthroughs, because of what we're able to do with technology, because there's growing awareness, and because not only are individual doctors and researchers becoming aware, but consumers are becoming aware of just how critical glycans are. And again, this comes back to things that we're doing as well with Glycan Score as a way to introduce the concept of glycans to brand new customers, to talk to them about why it matters and how it impacts your biological age, how it impacts your overall health, and giving consumers an understanding of what might be impacting their glycan age, right? How they're actually aging from a glycan profile perspective. This is a unique opportunity and a unique time where customers are more aware and they're more concerned than ever before. And there's attention on the problem for the first time in a long time. And so it's really exciting when you think about where we're going. Now, again, we talk about a few key things. Most people are focused on proteins and peptides, but 70 to 80% of all proteins have to be glycosylated. We talk about the 8 essential glycans, right? Those key glyconutrients that are not as common in your day-to-day diet that are found in products like ambertose. And then you talk about all of the different clinical trials and clinical studies that we've done over the years and the ones we're about to conduct coming up here shortly. And we're leading the way. There's nobody doing more in the natural health space than we are. And within that, there's also nobody doing more within the technology space for glycans than we are. With our products like our digital products like Glycan Score and Glycan IQ, which is coming, which is able to give you a quick back of the napkin math based on a number of clinical studies, hundreds of clinical studies, where we've combined these different various factors to look at what impact they might have on your glycan profile, on your glycol, right? And give you an actual score saying, here is for improvement. Here are some things you might do. You might find out from that score that you need to consume something like more sialic acid, which you would find, typically speaking, in some dairy products. We have the sialic acid product in Osaline, but you can also consume it through other products like True Health Shake and some other things that would also have sialic acid in there. And you may find out that you need more prebiotic fiber, for example, and you can get that as well from our products. You might find out that you need more arabinogalactan. And again, where are you going to get that? But ambertose. So all of these things are critical, and we have an incredible set of tools at our disposal today to help you discover just what your overall glycan health looks like and how to apply our products to get the best possible outcome. So it's an incredibly exciting time. And I believe that we're on the edge of what I'm calling the glycan era, right? We want to make a multi-glycan supplement, something like ambertose, as ubiquitous as table salt. We want it to be everywhere. So many people are focused on multivitamins, and that's a great thing. We love that people are aware of their health, but most people are no longer deficient in many vitamins and minerals because they have fortified foods, and then they have a modern food program where it's going to add those things in. You see, oh, this is fortified with vitamin B, or this is fortified with iron. But in every single developing nation, the consumption of dietary fiber, the consumption of dietary glycans is continuing to decline as it's stripped out of our diet. And as a result, you see people consuming more supplements than ever, but being less and less healthy. And say, well, how can that possibly be? Well, they have that missing link that's being overlooked across the board. And again, we are the leader, and it's not something that's going to be forgotten for long. As more and more people discover what this is and what can be influenced within their health just by consuming these dietary glycans, they're going to see a huge impact, and the whole industry is going to change. And I truly believe that now is the time for glycan replenishment therapy. Now, you may say, well, what about that phrase? What about glycan replenishment therapy gets me excited? Well, in a lot of countries, as I'm sure, as you've seen in, the EU, UK, and then the US as well, we've seen a huge increase in people who are interested in healthy aging. And that interest in healthy aging has led to huge explosions in hormone replacement therapy and other anti-aging therapies. And so within that, all of those things are fantastic, but in my mind, they are, 5%, 1% improvements when you have something that's so fundamental and underlies everything that's being overlooked, which is that glycan replenishment therapy. So we're choosing our words carefully here. It's not replacement, because again, your body can synthesize these glycans, but it's replenishing the building blocks that your body needs to maintain and optimize healthy production of these glycans. And again, they're so critical for every single function in your body. And we've looked at all of nature, all 150, 200 plus natural dietary sources where you can get these critical glycans, and looked at the clinical studies. And we've developed a roadmap that I could tell you puts us 10 years ahead, even of the most cutting edge company that would start today. We're already so far out in front because we've already been looking at this space for such a long period of time, and because we're so heavily focused on glycans as that missing link. When you think about glycans overall, again, I would tell you a few key things, right? You're thinking about this as nourishing and supporting your body's natural ability to heal itself, to take care of itself. That's the critical piece here. You're nourishing your body. You're filling in a gap. You're replenishing that. And by doing that, again, you're optimizing cellular communication everywhere in your body. And just to give an interesting example, I have a lifelong interest in cognitive disorders, specifically things that, neurodegenerative diseases and things like that. And I was just fascinated with the fact that there's a glycan, for example, in your brain that helps to control your lymphatic system, which is that body's natural, think of it as your lymph system in your brain. So it helps with that clearing out process, and it's controlled by a glycan. So there's actually drug development going on to figure out how they can activate, to turn on and turn off that switch to help with neurodegenerative diseases. So it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere throughout your body. It's on every single cell, and giving your body what it needs to take care of itself, to transform its own health is critical. It is the ability for you to thrive into the future and to have that health span, the amount of time that you spend healthy, match your lifespan. And that's another key feature here that I think is often overlooked and is going to help drive this revolution, which is that for the first time in a long time, people are living longer than ever, but they're not living healthy longer, right? The amount of time they actually get to spend enjoying their life, doing the things that they want to do, bending down, playing with their grandkids, going on fun vacations to places like Aruba, whatever it is, they don't get to do that because they're just not healthy. More medications, you don't feel as good, all of that. So the goal of healthy aging is really to have that health span match that lifespan. So you get to enjoy your life fully throughout. And integrating glycan support as part of that helps you feel more energetic, helps boost your immune system, helps boost your overall focus. We know these things. We have clinical trials focused on, again, the benefits of glycans and cognition, the benefits of glycans and immune system. So it's already something that we're actively a part of. And I couldn't be more excited for where we're going into the future. So with that, I will tell you from my perspective, there are so many amazing things about glycan replenishment therapy, and introducing somebody to glycan replenishment therapy is a great way to introduce them to Manatech. And if it's a brand new person, something like glycan score, where they can go on, they can take a 5 to 10 minute quiz, they can take a picture of their face if they want and have it scanned. We run it through a computer program to look at signs of moisture, wrinkles, things like that, that might be an indicator of your skin degrading. And then we give you a score, right? That score will give you an overall indicator of your glycan health. And that is for a brand new person, a great way to introduce them to. You have glycans, everybody does. They're important in your health. And here's where you're at today. So you can benchmark. Now, for somebody who's an active product user, again, that's where we have these new tests that are coming shortly, things like Glycan IQ, where we're going to be able to measure over time the improvements in your cognition, the improvements in your joint health, for example. And that is really more for a product user, whereas glycan score is really for a brand new person who wants to discover where they're at today and really benchmark where they're at today. They can come back to you and say, I'm missing something for my joints, or I need something for my immune system. And from there, you can recommend a product that might fit their needs. So that's where that comes in. Now, we've also added on that glycan score something that I think is really powerful, which allows you to simulate what 12 weeks of ambertose might look like for that person. So simulate multi-glycan support, and you can move that slider to see, oh, wow, look, at 2 weeks, this is my result. 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, to show them that realistically, this is something that you're not going to fix it in 2 weeks. You're not going to fix it in 4 weeks. And it's something you want to give time, right? We talk about 12 weeks being a critical period, but it's beyond that, right? Once you get onto it and you continue to use it, you're going to see those results, because it's not one of those things where, unfortunately, for most people, they're going to change their diet overnight. How many of you have done that, right? Where you start on a product and then you change your diet, your whole lifestyle, and it sticks? Almost nobody. So most people will need to continue on with that because they don't have the fundamental variety of dietary glycans. So you continue to consume ambertose, you continue to consume those products, and they fill in those gaps that you have. So that is where glycan score fits into the picture. And again, glycan replenishment therapy is just a new way to think about this as it relates to healthy aging. So that's it for me. That is my spiel on glycan replenishment therapy. And we're so excited. And I would tell you, we did a little preview of this in March in mainland China. And they started talking about this to customers, and they saw 70% growth in a month, right? So customers are clamoring for glycan replenishment therapy, right? The products themselves work. We've known that for a very, very long time, but the story resonates with people. And that way of thinking about it as replenishing what you already have, giving you those building blocks, really resonates.